Welcome back to Closing Day. My name is Jeff Delgrand, and with me today I have Lyndon Lichty and Ryan Tupper from Absolute Insurance, who are giving us all the information about insurance. We were just talking about water coverage, for example, and I had to cut you off. And I want to come back to that because you had a couple of points left to tell us all about water coverage and how the insurance works.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. So there's really two other coverages we should talk about, and they're both optional. They're not included automatically. One of them is called overland water. So when surface water sitting on top of the ground actually can get into your house. So a common example for that is you have a heavy rainfall, the ground is so saturated with water, the water just sits on top of the ground. If that water enters your house, maybe it enters in through a basement window, and it can cause a flood in your basement. It can actually go through a door or a garage. Sometimes it even goes up over the block wall where the cement meets the brick veneer or the vinyl siding. Water can enter in that way as well. So obviously you want to ask your broker or your agent, what coverages do I have for overland water? And finally, a fourth way of protecting your house properly is through a coverage called groundwater. Now, some insurance companies that offer this coverage, there's actually a little bit of fine print in that you should always ask your insurance broker about or your agent. But essentially what it's designed to do is protect your home in the event that water, so subsurface water, so water in the ground, if it enters in through your home, there's coverage for that as well, to your contents, to any damage that the water covers.
Oh, okay. All right. That's good to know. I'm glad you filled us in on the water insurance, especially with what's gone on this summer. Now, I want to talk about rural properties, farm insurance. I understand this is a specialty of yours as well.
Yeah, it's one thing that, we do quite a bit of, Jeff, obviously living where we do here in Orangeville. And there's a lot of rural properties here. I grew up on a fully functioning dairy farm, so I have a background there.
Oh, really?
And Ryan grew up on a 40-acre kind of hobby farm, beef, cattle, and horses. So we have a real good grasp of the rural property, what happens there. So the typical home policy where it's different, the main thing right away is acreage. Obviously, we're just dealing with more land, so it falls outside of your typical homeowner's package.
Oh, yeah,
yeah. From there, things for a large operational farm, obviously just farm buildings. So having the expertise to put together, the rebuild value, like I talked about earlier, for the house.
Right.
You also have to have the expertise to figure out the rebuild value of different barns and sheds and farm buildings.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Obviously, things like livestock. So whether it's dairy cattle, beef cattle, pigs, some type of poultry, that sort of thing. So understanding how those whole operations work.
Right.
Farming as well obviously has large farm equipment, that they're using on the land, roads, that sort of, or driving on the roads, that sort of thing. So just understanding sort of the intricacies of sort of the large farming operation. On the hobby side of things as well, it's the same thing. You come across, we see a lot of more oil tanks in the country.
Right.
Okay, so we have to understand all the ins and outs of oil tanks, kind of keep up with the latest regulations there. We see a lot more wood stoves as well. You just typically see more wood stoves in the country.
Yeah.
So make sure they're certified properly, put in properly so they're up to specs that they should be. Another thing I guess would be solar panels. We see a lot more sort of solar energy on farms in the country. So whether it's freestanding or mounted on buildings. So just really understanding the whole sort of solar sort of energy side of things as well. And renting out land. You might have a hobby farm and you might rent out 10 acres, 20 acres, that sort of thing. And so there's just different coverages for that as well. So I would think that's kind of the unique pieces of rural properties that you need to be made aware of, and that, working with someone who really understands kind of what's going on your property, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I can imagine. Some of these bigger farms with quotas, for example,
100%,
things like that.
Yeah.
And solar, that's getting so popular. I saw that there's making solar panels now that look like shingles, so you can actually shingle your roof.
Yeah.
And it looks like a normal shingle roof, but it's a solar paneled roof.
Yeah, fast hitting.
So would you have to have separate insurance for that stuff too?
Yeah, there's special insurance. So, for example, you might drive around Orangeville and see solar panels installed on a roof.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
So there's special type of liability coverage that the insurance company wants you to have in place for having those solar panels installed. So one thing that they'll require is actually an engineer's report to prove that the roof or the structure can actually support the solar panels. And it's actually good to have a broker on your side if you're thinking of doing that, because there's actually some insurance companies that won't provide coverage to the solar panels because they see it more as a business and they just don't want any part of that business aspect of it being on a residential policy.
Right, right. And I know from experience there's some finance companies that won't finance places with solar panels too. So they are
Right.
unique, very,
Yeah,
very much
for
so.
sure.
Now, what type of tips can you give us to help people save money on insurance?
A whole gamut of tips here, Jeff. So I'll start with some, and then you can chime
Sure.
in. You know what's really popular now, Jeff, is credit scoring. So
Right.
obviously, in your business, you're helping people borrow money.
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
and credit score is a factor in that.
Right.
We've
right.
seen in the last, would you say, Ryan, 3, 4, 5 years,
Yeah.
insurance companies now doing a soft hit on your credit as well. So another value of having good credit score. They'll do a soft hit. It doesn't show up on your, let's say, your credit rating,
Report, yeah.
credit report.
Yeah.
But obviously, Jeff, if you have better credit, the insurance companies think that you pay your bills on time, you take care of things, so therefore they'll extend a further discount to you the better your credit score is.
Wow,
Okay.
never would have guessed that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, I guess just to further that up, it's just statistics that, insurance is driven heavily by statistics.
Right.
And the reality is people who have a slightly lower credit score tend to have more claims. So that's the reasoning behind the discount that they provide.
Okay.
If you don't smoke, Jeff, make sure you let your insurance company know
Right.
that you don't smoke, because lots of insurance companies offer a non-smokers discount. Speaking about credit, if you're mortgage free, make sure you let your insurance company know. Okay.
Really?
Talk to your insurance professional about deductibles, potentially raising your deductible to leave more money in your pocket.
Right.
Always talk around discounts around multi-line discounts. So if your car and your home, talk to your
right.
insurance professional about partnering them up, because oftentimes that's the best value to have them with the same company, because they'll do cross discounts there. Okay.
Okay.
Updates to your home. So make sure if you've done any recent updates, whether it be the roof, the electrical, the plumbing, different things like that, new sump pumps with alarms. Make sure you let your insurance company know. Even alarm systems. Okay, if you got a burglar alarm, some obviously home insurance providers will give you a discount
Yeah.
for having a monitored alarm system. What am I missing, Ryan? What else can we?
So we're just starting into September, and we have, students going back to school. So young drivers tend to pay a lot for car insurance.
Right. Right.
There's a few things that young drivers can do to help save money. Number
Yeah.
one, they can get a driver's training certificate
Okay.
that earns them experience with the insurance company to help lower their price.
Right.
Another discount that often gets forgotten is a good student discount. So if the student's able to prove that they've maintained, every company is different, or a 70 or an 80% average on a transcript, they can apply to get a discount for being a good student.
Really?
Yeah, so that's one we see a fair bit that often gets forgotten.
Right.
Another coverage is, maybe for older drivers who are heading off to college or university, there's a way at school discount that they can apply for. So while they're living in residence or living off campus and they don't have a vehicle with them, they can call their insurance broker and advise them where they're living,
Yeah.
and they can get that away at student discount. It can save them easily 25-50% on their price on it.
That's amazing. I wouldn't have thought of calling my insurance company for all those different things, but
You know what? I'm going to offer you a couple more, Jeff, on the home side. I'm going to take it back to the home here.
yeah.
As remember the rebuild in the first part of the segment I
Yes,
talked about
yeah.
was the rebuild value. Is a good thing to do is check with your insurance company or review that. Obviously, insurance companies put that up every year due to inflation. So
Right.
just make sure that the numbers on your actual insurance paperwork, the rebuild value on it, just do an exercise with your insurance professional to
Yes.
make sure that that's in line where it should be. And of course, talk to a broker because they'll shop the market for you. So that's the final tip, Jeff. Talk to a broker to make
Yeah,
sure they get multiple pricing on it.
Well, I totally
and,
agree with that.
and
You
go
should
from
you
there.
should check the competition. You should see who's charging what. And all those tips. All these years I've owned houses and had insurance. I never thought of calling my insurance company for any one of those reasons, and
Yeah.
yet I could have and saved some money on that
there
as
you
well.
go. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's good. I think we're getting great value out of that. I know I am. I'm going to save some money
Right.
tomorrow when I make a phone call.
Yeah, exactly.
And I do want to bring us around to, we left the first segment about this bacon sandwich story. Now,
Yes.
I've been told to ask the question. I don't know anything about it, so this is as new to me as it will be to everyone else. How does a bacon sandwich relate to insurance? You got to give me this. I got to tell me about this
It's a
one.
great question.
Why don't you tell the story, Ryan?
Well, it's actually a real life claims example
Oh,
from our office. A client of ours, came off work one day and decided to make a tasty sandwich on the oven. His spouse was away at the time, and she usually did the cooking, and unfortunately she wasn't there. So he, continued, decided, hey, I'm hungry. I'm gonna have a bit of a sandwich here, and
yeah.
he started cooking the bacon up on the stove, got his, the bread all ready, but he actually ended up getting distracted, went outside and started mowing his lawn. Meanwhile,
That's something I might do.
Meanwhile, he left the stove and the bacon on the stove, and it got hot, started a grease fire,
Yeah,
and his house was completely destroyed, totally burnt down
because he went out and cut his grass.
because he went out and mowed his lawn. Now he did live on a rural property, had a couple of acres, and just got lost in the moment, was riding his mower, and next thing he turns around and his house is on fire.
Ooh.
Now, the only way everything worked out well for him.
Yes.
Okay, no one was hurt, that sort of thing, so it was great. But it was just kind of an interesting story of, you know what? Hey, there's an insurance claim that happened, something sudden and accidental. That was a mistake, and
Right.
it happened. And he's moved on with his life. He's got a new house. He's got new clothes on his back, that sort of thing. So they're all set.
And his wife forgave him.
Yeah. I don't think he's making any bacon sandwiches anytime soon.
Yeah.
So,
No, he's just doing all the cooking now, right?
yeah, exactly.
Well, that's something. Well, so let's draw some tips from this then. So one of the things we should do is, look at the improvements we're making to our house.
Yep.
Maybe talk to our insurance professional about, should we go back to our insurance professional and say, hey, I've got good credit. Did you think about that?
100%. Just spend some time with them on the phone and say, listen, I need to review my home insurance file, and just go over the different varying things that I mentioned earlier about, hey, am I covered for this? Am I covered for that? Am I getting these different discounts? Just to make sure that it's done properly, and a good insurance professional will take care of you to make sure you're maximizing your discounts and getting the best bang for your buck.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then you talked about insuring a house for its replacement value.
Yes.
So is there do you have to consider the foundation? Do you have to consider, what other things would you consider? Is it just sort of the house on top?
Yeah, it's a great question. So essentially the first thing that we look at is the age of the house and how it's constructed. So, the square footage of the home. The larger the square footage of the home, the more it costs to rebuild. So we look at the age, the square footage, number of bathrooms that are there, bedrooms. We look at the finishing of the home. Is it builder's grade finishing, or is it actual, custom kitchen, or is there any, custom work inside of it? We have to take that into account.
Right, right.